All right, so here's a quick video, start to finish. I'm setting up a scene here for a friend of mine. He's going to be borrowing my console. They're doing a show at a local school. They're doing Willy Wonka or Wonka in the Chocolate Factory or Charlie in the Chocolate Factory or Charlie Wonka or whoever it is. Their soundboard, which we used a couple years ago back when my kids were there, is no longer functional. The power did not come on. And so what I did is I loaded up a blank scene. Now, pro tip, when you first get a console, load up a blank scene, which has all of your inputs saved as nothing. Faders are down, DCAs are here. Just everything on the console is blank. And you've got nothing getting in the way of anything that it's just a fresh, clean start. So that's where I'm at. What I do know is that we need to have 12 microphones. So I'm going to set up, if I push both of these together on the smaller platform, then it gives me all 16 inputs here instead of having just inputs and then DCAs and outputs. So this kind of spills over. I'm going to take channel 1. I'm going to go ahead and bring this up to -5. These are kids. These are elementary school kids. But I'm going to label these as we need 12 microphones, so they're running 12 wireless over-ear mics. And I'm going to set up some basic EQing and some settings just to kind of get this thing started. And then I'm going to save this in the library and duplicate it across the first 12 channels. So to get started, I'm going to come into the EQ. I'm going to turn the EQ on and the low cut. I'm going to low cut all the way up to 180 hertz. Then I'm going to take my low band, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to dip out about 250. Then I'm going to go here and go up an octave to about 500 and dip out a little bit of that. And then I'm going to find 1K. And I'm going to make this a little bit sharper of a cut. But I'm going to take out a little bit of 1K just in case the girls are singing or the boys that have higher voices still. That's going to help them. If he wants to, he can go to the high band and just add a little bit of air or top end. But we're going to assume right now that we don't need that. We're just going to leave this as a really, really basic starting EQ. Compression, I'm going to come in. I'm just going to turn this compression down some. Again, I have no idea where these are going to land. I'm going to tell him to try and get his gain to -12, maybe -15, but -12 if he's lucky. That should be a good spot for what we have going on here to make this work. So we're going to compress this a little bit, and then we're going to go ahead and bring the gain back up 2 dB. When kids talk on stage, they don't talk loud. When they sing louder. So we're going to try and even that up. The other thing I want to look at here is the input gain. I'm going to go ahead and just assume that we're going to need to have some decent gain coming in. When I run an SM58 right now plugged into this channel, I've got a Sennheiser 835 plugged in. And as soon as I get up to about 30 dB, 32 dB of input gain, you can see that meter starts working. Now it's on my desk. If I pick it up, stick it on my chin, hey, check one, check one. You see it's barely registering. So, well, it's not barely registering. It is below -18, so this would still need to go up. However, with this in mind, it at least gives us some gain that he can start to work from. So that's there. I'm going to go ahead and leave this like it is. We don't need any gates. We don't need any fancy stuff like that. But having this set down at -5 on the fader is good. That gives him headroom, or in the off chance that some kids, near a speaker when they turn on the microphone, hopefully it does not squeal and feedback. Now, the next thing we're going to do is come up next to the screen and hit Setup. I'm going to page over here to the Name and Icon tab, where we can change the color of these inputs. I'm going to make it green. If I select the right thing, there we go, green. And I'm going to hit Edit, and we're just going to make this mic 1. Actually, you know what? I don't want to relabel them. I'm just going to do the color. That's going to be easier. He knows he's got 12 mics, and the color will be sufficient to get him what he needs. So that's a good start right there. We've got different coloring. We've got the fader up. We've got a little bit of EQ and compression. I want to save this. So also to the right of the screen is the Library tab. I'm going to hit library. I'm going to go way towards the bottom. Come way down here. And I've got some other random things in here. I'm going to, for me, channel 99 is what I'm going to hit. Now, look at recall scope on the left-hand side. That is used for when we're recalling things. We're going to save a snapshot of this entire setup or channel strip. So I'll hit save, and I'm just going to come over here and use these things to call it mic, because, well, that's what we're going to do. We'll hit save. So we've got a mic in there. Excellent. Now, what I want to do is select the second channel, and head amp gain, I want to keep that. The name and icon, I want to keep that. If I had it specifically named Crystal or Billy or whoever's going to be on this mic, then I could use this and come down and deselect that. So it would overwrite everything except the name on the channel. Gate, compressor, EQ, sends, and main. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually go up and make one more change. Because we can do the sends, I'm going to set up an effects rack that has a little bit of reverb. So I'm going to go here to bus on the right, bus 9 to 16. I'm going to take effects rack 1, select it, and hit sends on fader. And then I'm going to turn this up to about -10. Okay, so that's going to send this microphone into effects rack 1. We're going to come in and change effects rack 1 just to make it a basic plate reverb, but this is also going to be saved here. So when I come back up and I hit save, save, and then confirm, now when I select channel 2 and I hit load this preset called mic and I hit confirm, I messed up. I still had the effects rack selected, so I need to go back, select channel 1, save this, and now when I select 2, I should be able to load it. And there we go. No mess ups. But our fader is here. We've got channel 1, channel 2. I just need to bounce through all of these. So I'm going to go here, load. That's channel 3. This is going to be 4. And this is a quick way to use the library to get your settings saved. And if you've got a bunch of vocals or a bunch of guitars or something that you want to duplicate settings on, you can use this library to quickly punch through. So right now we have 12 mics set up. And if I come back to the effects rack here on the right, and I select it and I hit sends on fader, we'll see that all of my inputs are now sending the same amount into that effects rack. He can fine tune it. If I go to the next layer, you can see as well 9, 10, 11, 12, but 13 through 16 are down. So that's a quick way to get everything saved and stored and functional inside of the console. So now we are at 1 through 12 with our mic inputs. The next thing I want to do is set up this effects rack. When I come onto the right-hand side over here and I hit effects rack 1 is a vintage room. I'm going to change that. I'm just going to go right here. Let's jump down and see if we can find, I think I've surpassed it already. I have. Let's go back up to the top. There we go. Plate reverb. It's the bluish one here. If I set it and then I hit edit, we've got this nice plate reverb here. Pre-delay, I'm going to set that just a little bit faster, 20 milliseconds. The decay time, I'm going to set that a little faster too. We just want to add a little bit of depth to these elementary school kids' voices when they're singing. We don't need a huge reverb. They're also in a gymnasium, and so it's going to have, you know, concrete walls and floors and stuff. So we're just going to make a couple changes here. When I go down to the second layer or page down here, low cut, I'm going to crank that up above any subwoofers, so 122 looks good. High cut, I'm going to come down to about 4K, and that's good. So they're going to send into this reverb. If he needs more or less, he can make changes to the individual channels. And while he's on the layers up here, we can set up a DCA that he can turn that effect on or off. And if he only wants it on while he's singing, we can set up a mute group down here on the right, which I always recommend as well. That way you can mute or unmute certain things. So let's do that next. We're going to come up to the home screen. Let's go ahead and save this scene in here. I clicked on the view scenes. I've got it highlighted with the current scene. I'm going to hit save, save, and then confirm. And all those changes are now saved inside the console. All right, next thing we want to do is go ahead and set up our mute groups. So there's a couple different ways to do that, but what I'm going to do is just select channel 1. And if we come over here under the home screen, we can go to the second page. And you've got mute group here. And mute group 1, I'm just going to assign that. So I'll click there. I'll go to channel 2 and click. And we're just going to rinse and repeat to click all of these vocals so that they are on mute group 1. And that way, when we come back up here, we hit mute group 1, they all mute. That's a quick, easy way to do it. I'm going to set up, I know he's going to have some sound effects coming in to the board, and those effects are going to be from Ableton. So let's think about where we want to put those. He can just go USB direct into the board, and I can bring those in on aux 1 and 2. It's just a mono setup, but I think anyway, we're just going to do 1 and 2. I'm going to select aux 1. I'm going to link the page by going over here and hitting link, and yes please. That way when I bring up aux 1, we also get aux 2. Now that's going to be currently using the 1/4 inch inputs on the back of the board. We want to change that. We want to set this up by using our routing remap. So I'm going to go to routing to the right of the screen. And right here in this 5th section, we see the aux ins. We're going to come down and we're going to remap. Now we could remap card 1 and 2, which would give us 2 channels across USB coming into the console right over there, which is great. Not a bad thing at all. However, instead of you doing that, I still think he's got like a CD player, maybe that's going to have some tracks or something else from a different computer. We want to have these other auxiliaries still available with the 1/4 inch jack in case he runs a TRS cable or something in. So I'm going to go to user in 1 to 6. That gives me the ability to customize these 6 inputs here by paging over on this routing screen. I'm going to page over, we're on input. I'm going to go way over here, all the way to the far right to user. User input. Now, this is blocks of 8. We only get 6, but that's fine, 2 blank ones. So user in 1 is going to come from card in and 1. Then I hit next, which is user in 2. I'm going to go to card in 2. Now this is where we go to user in 3. We're going to go back to auxiliary in, which is just down. This we're going to go to aux in 3, and then we can hit next to 4 and apply it, 5, apply it, and 6 and apply it. This now gives us channels 1 and 2 that are aux in are going to be from the card. 3, 4, 5, and 6 are still from the back end connections. So we set up a user group of 1 through 8, but we're only using 6 of them. And that has been remapped over here on the input screen to be used in the aux ins. So that's going to give him Ableton inputs with a stereo track. He's still got the other 4 auxiliary inputs as well. Let me label this so he knows what it's doing. I'm going to hit the setup screen to the right, just like we did before. Name and icon. Now these are already green, so I want to call his attention to them. I'm going to come down and find the light blue, and I'm going to put this computer icon right there. So we'll do that, and then I'm going to select the second one. I'm going to do the same computer icon. He is a smart guy. He'll figure out that that's his Ableton stuff. Next thing I want to do is set up a mute group for the Ableton inputs. So because we're already on aux in 2, I can go back to our home screen. I can page down. I'm going to set this up on mute group 2. So I'll go to mute group 2 and click assign 1, hit assign. Oh, it did it already because they're linked. So now we have mute group 2. So 1 is vocals, 2 is Ableton, and then I always do effects on 6. So if these effects are too much for somebody who's talking, then I want to make sure that the effects are muted when they're talking. So to do that, I'm going to select Effects Rack 1, and I'm going to go over here and use mute group 6. And I tend to like muting it at the effects bus, not the returns. The returns are on this side, way over here. These are the effects returns, and I like to mute it over here. This lets the signal go into the effects rack and come back over there. If I mute it over there, it's a very abrupt stop. So if they're singing and this is going through and then they immediately start talking and I mute, that doesn't stop the singing that was going through. That'll still come through, but it will stop anything further going in. So that's how I like to do that. If I come back up here and we go to our first layer and our first layer, we now have our vocals. We've got an Ableton, which is mutable. We've got our effects, which is mutable. He may want to use some DCAs, and I will probably end up getting a phone call or a text about that just to be able to manage it quicker. But in the end, depending on how many inputs he has, he could just push both of these channels and just live right here. All of your mics in one place. We could actually put the aux in 1 and 2 for Ableton right here. If he's got anything from a laptop, we could put them here and have 16 channels and a main fader and make his life really easy with mute groups. But this is a quick basic setup that we're going to do for this, this setup at this elementary school for their performance of Wonka, Chili, Charlie, Factory, all that stuff, whatever you want to call it. So I hope this has been helpful. If you like this kind of video, if you need any help with this stuff, feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section below. You can check out my website, also linked in the description. And if you want any one-on-one help, you can fill out the contact card at that website, and we'll get back to you and start a conversation outside of YouTube. But that's it. Have a great day. Peace.